everyone, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk. My name is Mark Ellis, and on today's show, James Mangold finally has his follow-up to Logan. Quentin Tarantino responds to Uma Thurman's article this weekend, and we might have a new player in the Disney-Fox merger that could ruin everything. The one guarantee I always give you guys is that here on Collider Movie Talk, we do not sleepwalk through a show. Isn't that right, Mark Reilly?
That is correct, Mark Ellis. Thank you for calling that out. Yeah, I slept walk last night. Let's get into it.
He went to Ralph's and bought some donuts. Perri Nemiroff, have you ever sleptwalked?
When I was younger, but no, when things go missing in my apartment in the middle of the night, I blame Deputy Dewey.
He's a deputy and he abuses his power. Somebody who never abuses his power at Collider. That is Dennis Zen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I haven't sleptwalked since I was a kid. Went downstairs, ended up... I thought I was watching TV, but there was nothing on television screen. My dad found me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm watching TV. Leave me alone."
You should really try it as an adult. It's quite illuminating.
I love how your impression voice of yourself when you were little sounds like a 80-year-old grandpa.
Yeah. It's probably indicating how I feel right now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it is not true sleepwalking until you put some pillows in the oven, a la Step Brothers. Our first story today is about, y'all remember when we talked about Disney and they were buying Fox? We got really excited that maybe we were going to have some X-Men in the universe now, or we were going to get Deadpool or Venom or somebody else was going to be in our MCU. Well, let's just pump the brakes on that for a minute because the new player is Comcast. Comcast is now reportedly in the running to acquire 20th Century Fox and most of their properties. That is based on a new report from CNBC. It states that Comcast could potentially outbid Disney's offer for Fox assets, and that hence would keep the X-Men and Avatar properties away from the big mouse. It all comes down to the potential AT&T and Time Warner merger. If that deal goes through, it would pave the way for big corporations like a Verizon or a Comcast to purchase media companies, with Comcast said to be considering topping Disney's offer. I will note that as of right now, the update is that Disney is considering a counteroffer to Comcast bid where they would outbid them, and Fox, I think, would still, as they've said in the past, prefer to go with Disney because of how well the deal could go through. Time Warner and AT&T were working on a merger last year that was in the neighborhood of $85 billion. That was sued by the Justice Department, and there's no such snags, at least as of right now, with Disney acquiring Fox. Reilly, I go to you on all of these big word stories that you probably read about in the Wall Street Journal. What does this mean for movie fans if potentially Comcast were to get the Disney out of the way and get Fox?
Well, if Comcast gets it, obviously, as the graphics show, we could see some of the properties from Fox go over there. We have Jurassic World. We have Fast and Furious. I don't think they would immediately go to a shared universe of a Deadpool and a T-Rex road movie. I hope not. But it's interesting to see the developments on the AT&T Time Warner merger. And what's happening right now is the Fox shareholders are kind of perking up to see if there might be something worth looking into. But as you said, Disney is kind of going to counter that. It makes a lot of sense for Disney to purchase Fox. We've been talking about it for a while. They got the MCU. That makes sense. But at the same point, some of the arguments are we don't want these big conglomerates, these big studios to merge into one. I don't know. Then you have Universal and Fox kind of merging in, I guess, if that's what it says. It's very interesting. I don't think it's going to go through, though.
Yeah, I mean, Comcast has actually already purchased NBC Universal, so if they added Fox, it would make sense because they're trying to build a large entertainment portfolio, Dennis. I know Reilly discusses the apprehension that you have these big studios taking over. Comcast is a huge corporation as well, so either way, Fox is going to get bought by the man. Somebody way up in the sky with a crap ton of money that made Scrooge McDuck blush is going to get Fox. Do you think that Disney is the wise move from a movie fan's perspective, that we could melt all these universes to one, or do you think maybe we do keep them separate?
Well, see, this goes way beyond us having an Avengers versus X-Men movie. This is a long-term play by Disney, and that's why Comcast Universal is getting in the mix too. Disney wants to build their own streaming service. They want to compete with Netflix. They see where the trends are going. So in order to do that, look, if Disney has a great library already, but it's harder to compete against Netflix if they only have their stuff, even though they are right now the dominant studio. If they purchase Fox and they get that whole library of content in there, that's much more attractive. This is a race against Netflix, and that's probably what Comcast is doing as well. They're like, well, we need to beef up our library as well, so we can start our own streaming stuff. So this is more than just us getting cool. We get to see, Wolverine fight Iron Man. It's more than that. They're going for the long term. They want your money, and this is problematic in a few different ways. One, they're trying to outbid with Comcast, so that's more money they're going to spend. Two, there's probably going to be delays if even if Disney eventually gets it, because Netflix is already realizes they're losing Disney, so they're gearing up. That's why they have stuff like the Cloverfield Paradox and all these other movies. Bright, we just had Bright, all these other movies, all these other assets, because they're gearing up for war.
Yeah, the streaming thing is a really interesting point that Dennis made, Perri, because Comcast is going to be a player in the streaming game as well, more so than they already are. They acquired NBC Universal, who obviously is in cahoots with Hulu to some degree, so they're looking to get their streaming platform up and running as much as anybody.
Yeah, this is a scary situation. And when you take the super cool conversation of X-Men with the MCU characters out of it, it just completely illuminates how much this would kind of suck if two giant entities merged together and it took away more creative opportunities from other people and different types of material from different studios. But at the same time, you look at a situation like this, and what choice does Fox have? Because while I was reading about this, I was looking at all the market cap amounts for each of these companies, and entities like Fox and Time Warner are so much lower than the bigger players right now. Like Apple, maybe not so much Netflix, but Amazon has a huge market cap also. There's no denying that this is going to happen no matter how I feel about it, no matter how anybody feels about it, no matter how anybody feels about franchises being merged together as a movie fan. This is an inevitable element of our future.
Dennis, are you of the mind that you want to see all of these characters eventually just be in one giant universe? Whatever happens from the fallout of Infinity War or the future of the X-Men, do you want to see all of that together, or are you more of a let's keep it separate and have more individual standalone kind of pieces?
I'm mixed on that. I think as someone who grew up reading comic books, it's fun to see all the characters, because when you're younger and reading these comic books, there's no restrictions in terms of Wolverine and the Avengers and all that stuff mixing together. But on the other hand, I'm worried about not getting the movies like a Logan or a Deadpool, because Disney, is more of a family-friendly thing. They said they are open to doing R-rated movies, but I don't know if they actually are. So I don't know if we ever would have gotten a Logan if it was under Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Disney, in acquiring any property, especially a boatload of them, like what they could potentially get with Fox, is going to be of the understanding that not everything is going to be on brand for them as of right now, or what they have been in the past, which is why, as you brought up earlier, with the streaming service, if you acquire somebody who's a huge player in that, or you want to compete with Netflix, you're not going to be able to compete with Netflix if you just make everything Disney-fied. So you may have a sister network that could have all of that other content that we're talking about with something like Logan or like Deadpool.
Oh, I hope that would happen, because, I mean, as I said before, that's what scares me about these things more so than anything. Because you think about, let's say, whether we're talking about Disney and Fox being under the same umbrella, or Universal and Fox being under the same umbrella, it's not like, oh, they're all together now and they could still output the same amount of films. Odds are certain things would be cut from the schedule, and that's the last thing in the world I want to see happen. And with what Fox is doing right now, in particular with their superhero movies, I don't see that fitting under the Disney brand. And for all I know, what you said is true, and they could unveil another arm where darker, more R-rated material is released.
Disney After Dark.
I forget what we were talking about recently, but there was something we were talking. I think it was a Star Wars thing. It might have been on an episode of Mailbag or something where we were talking about. I mean, we talk about this all the time. A horror Star Wars movie, and thanks, Kyle Star. And even though that seems like a great idea to someone who really likes the genre like me, that does not suit, one, the Disney brand, and also the brand they're trying to build for Star Wars. And, even though I want to see them branch out and try all these different things with different creative control and all that fun stuff, you do have to respect the fact that, yes, they are a brand, and when you turn to a Disney film, you're getting a certain thing, and a lot of the moviegoers out there might go see Disney films because they know they're getting a certain something.
Yeah, that's ultimately, I would like, if these properties, whether an Avatar or especially a Logan or a Deadpool, to not have any restrictions to make and push the boundaries to make an R-rated movie. I'm not saying make an R-rated movie or make a superhero movie just to be R-rated, but we would not be having this conversation if there was no Logan or Deadpool, because those two movies came out and we went, wow, we could see this. This is finally something that is happening. So I don't want to then all of a sudden go back and then we get a PG-13 Deadpool or Logan or X-Men or what have you. So ultimately, I wish this deal was ultimately never happening.
Well,
to be honest with you,
it could never happen. So it could never happen for either one of these. So I'll just remind everybody that this deal, even Disney acquiring Fox, has not gone through yet, and it needs to pass a number of state and judicial kind of things before it ever gets to that.
It does, and that AT&T Time Warner thing could set the precedent for this. But the other side of this is that, so if Fox is in trouble and they're doing this in the first place because they think they can't compete with other entities, it almost seems like we're heading down to the same end no matter what, where if Fox does not merge with another company, do we see in a couple years, maybe a couple more years than a merger would take, eventually Fox just folds? I don't know if that's possible down the line, or maybe they reshape the organization so they can compete in a different way, but they're doing this so they could stay in the game.
Yeah, I think Fox is going to end up going to somebody to save their own skin, and whoever the highest bidder ends up that being, it's probably going to go to Disney. We are going to remind you guys that, like our headline says, Black Panther reviews just dropped online, and that includes our own Here at Collider video, as well as a Schmoes Know review. You guys can check that out at any time. We're also going to be talking about it live on the air today. 3 out of the 4 people on this panel have seen Black Panther. The other one likes to sleepwalk at night, so we are going to be talking about that later on in the show.
why do you think I was sleepwalking?
But
Didn't see the movie.
Mark Reilly is going to do us the honor of gathering some of the best takes from the interwebs now that everybody can give their full review of Black Panther. I got to see it last night, and not to foreshadow too much what we're going to be talking about later, but holy crap, it's awesome. Okay, we're going to go to something that is not awesome. It is, in fact, a story that keeps on growing, and that is Uma Thurman's interview with New York Times this past weekend. She addressed Harvey Weinstein and her own allegations of abuse, and then near the end of the article, there was a short video in which Thurman revealed she was forced by Tarantino to drive a car in Kill Bill against her wishes, and seen in the video released with the interview, Thurman loses control and crashes the car, causing injuries and a hospital visit. Thurman, however, recently released a statement saying Tarantino expressed remorse over the incident and provided her with the footage of the accident, knowing it could do damage to his career. And an update to this story is that Tarantino has responded in his own interview that was conducted by Deadline, and he said Uma called out the people who she felt were culprits: Harvey, Lawrence, Bender, and Bennett Walsh. Harvey and Lawrence and Ben lawyered up, and they seemed to keep themselves from being named in the New York Times piece. Their names were actually redacted, so he's kind of left representing everybody. You know, when I initially read this story, the headline to me at the time this weekend was that Uma Thurman is going to be included with the long list of people who have allegations against Harvey Weinstein. I read it. I felt horrific. I felt terrible reading all of the things that she went through in dealing with that monster repeatedly. And then at the end of the article, I think by association sometimes we're going to say, okay, now Quentin Tarantino, is he lumped in with the Weinstein thing? That's not what this was about at all, although Harvey Weinstein was a producer on Tarantino's movies, and he loved to walk around town trumping that Uma Thurman was responsible for building his house because she was so great in Pulp Fiction and these other movies that he produced. This particular story, as it is now, is more about Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino, where they seem to have patched things up to some degree, where she's accepted his apology. Initially, when you read it, Reilly, it seems that Uma Thurman was forced to drive this car by Quentin Tarantino, and that is not okay in any world because she's not a stunt person. She is not. She was not that good of a driver. She mentioned to them, and she didn't trust the car that she was getting. And it doesn't matter what the road conditions are or how fast you need to get the car. She was not comfortable doing it, and she ended up having to be that person for whatever reason. The story goes on to say that Uma Thurman did a number of other things that she wasn't necessarily comfortable with in the name of the production of the movie, such as having Tarantino be the one that spat in her face off camera that lands on camera in Kill Bill, or a choking scene. So that stuff is creepy to me. That Tarantino wanted to be the guy to do it. Now, I don't know if he felt like the actress might trust him more than some other random person doing that or acting out that scene. That stuff is creepy. The stuff about the car, I just find it very, very icky that any director, I don't care how good they are, how talented, or how many movies they've made, would force someone to do something like that against their will. Henceforth, we have read that Tarantino has his version of the story where he didn't feel like he was putting too much pressure on her and that he didn't really consider it a stunt. And all that's well and good, and I'm glad that she accepted his apology. My big problem with this is that as a director on any movie, you have to be clearly aware of your cast and how they're feeling about every scene. And I know that if you're in production for a long time, you may assume that you know how somebody's feeling about something. You need to have that communicated, regardless of how easy the stunt seems. You have to treat it as such.
This stunt should have never happened. I mean, if Uma Thurman said one word and said, not comfortable, boom, done. And you saw what happened. That video is scary. I mean, right when she takes off and goes off the road and slams and her head goes, I'm like, Jesus, that could have been worse. I mean, can you imagine? We've heard now, there was the Walking Dead stuntman that passed. There was that horrible train accident on a movie that happened, and I'm blanking on the woman's
Maze
name.
Runner, and that was Maze Runner, and then you also had Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2, you've had these stories come out. Now, can you imagine Kill Bill and you hear Uma Thurman passed in a crash? I mean, and this came out. Quentin Tarantino allegedly made her do the stunt. We wouldn't have had Kill Bill Volume 2. We wouldn't have Inglourious Basterds. We wouldn't have, because his career would have been over. So anytime an actress or an actor says, I'm not comfortable, you stop. I've worked with Teamsters before. I've worked with stunt people before. It is absolutely so, they take so much precaution on set that I can't believe that this happened. And his defending of it, where he was like, I kind of rolled my eyes when she said, she has a different thing. He was fuming, he was yelling and screaming and getting in the car, and he says, I was rolling my eyes, and come on, Uma, it's fine. This is he said, she said. So I don't know what to believe. I believe Uma because I look at that crash. and I go, geez, man. So I don't know. This is a developing story. She has accepted the apology, accepted the fact that he did the right thing, and dug up the information. And by his accounts, we see that other people have lawyered up, and he's now by himself. So you got to listen to what he has to say. But I am still investigating anything. These are long articles to go through and a lot of different fine points.
Yeah, no, and a lot of information keeps coming out about it. One of the things that was surprising to me, Perri, is that how long it took Uma to be able to get that footage back, because she wanted that footage for her own purposes as soon as it happened, because she knew the cameras were rolling the whole time, because of everybody around Tarantino and his claims that they were lawyering up, so to speak, and were not allowing that footage to be released. It took him such a long time to get it to her, which he did willingly 15 years after the fact. But he still gave it to her, knowing that she was going to go forward with this New York Times article.
The fact that they ever kept the footage from her does make you even more suspicious about the situation. Also, the other train movie I think Reilly might have been referencing was the Midnight Rider incident too.
Midnight Rider.
And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a stunt person, an actress, or a camera assistant. Everybody is under the responsibility of the director and the producers on a movie, and safety should be of the utmost importance, whether you're shooting a simple conversation that has maybe dangerous props or lighting or something, or you're doing what you think is a simple driving scene or an elaborate stunt. There should always be a degree of safety on set, and that should always be everybody's top concern. And it doesn't matter how you interpret their conversation based on Uma Thurman's perspective and how she describes it, or Quentin Tarantino's. And the whole, Matt Goldberg said it really well in his article. The whole he said, she said thing that's fine, because we don't really know whose story to take as truth. But the point of something like this is, and I think why we talk about it on a show like Movie Talk, is that these incidents need to be discussed. They need to be put out in the public, and pressure needs to be put on people in power like a Quentin Tarantino, which, maybe it wasn't really fair to him to have this story come out lumped in the Harvey Weinstein story. Perhaps they should have been two separate articles where the focus was strictly put on that, and not in a way where Harvey Weinstein and that whole scenario colors what happened with Quentin Tarantino and Uma Thurman. Maybe that's not entirely fair, but still, these are things that need to be spoken about. And what it comes down to is, whether we're talking about the movie industry or any scenario for that matter, if you are a person who has a certain degree of power, I think whenever you're behaving with the people around you, you should always consider how that's going to influence how they feel, because maybe he wasn't ranting and get in that car, but if I were in her shoes and my director came up to me and said, no big deal, get in that car, I would trust them. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a bit of a problem with me being too trusting, but whenever you have someone in that position of power, it is pretty much always going to influence anybody who is working underneath you. And that's what needs to be taken into account in this situation, and really anything like it.
Yeah, Dennis, I mean, I'm curious on your take for all of these, facets of the story, but also does this affect the future of Quentin Tarantino, or how he's viewed in his fans' eyes?
I honestly, I don't think so, especially with him apologizing and Uma Thurman accepting his apology, and now she's kind of diverting the blame to the producers. I think this is also a case of just a director bullying an actor because he can, and also, directors, they get obsessive and they want exactly what they want, and sometimes they forget that safety is the most important thing for everyone on set, whether it's an actor or it's someone behind the scenes. And I think this is a case where he crossed the line, and hopefully he learned something from it, or because he says he regrets it. Did he regret it because it happened, or did he regret it because he got, called out for it? I don't know. But that footage of Uma Thurman is very shocking. It's you watch it and you're like, oh, okay, it just looks like she's driving. And then when she hits, it's a very violent crash, and she looks like she's, in a lot of pain. I wouldn't. So I don't think, though, it will affect his career too much, but I think hopefully people will take notice and be safer on set.
Yeah, I mean, I think it highlights a number of things that happen on any movie set, is that you do have a director who's going to, as the camera lens does, get very, very focused on making the movie their way and wanting to get the most out of their production and the most out of their talent, but you can lose sight of the fact that safety should be number one for any set, regardless of what you're doing or what the production is like. And I really feel badly for Uma Thurman, because she's the one that had to bear the brunt of all this. So yeah, I think Tarantino's going to go on and be fine, and we'll still get excited about his Manson movie and whatever he's doing with Star Trek, but it just sucks that somebody had to go through this to get to this level, and had to live with this for all these years and not really get that story out until so many years later, that now we finally are having the conversation about it. That sucks, and I wish it didn't go down like that. I'm glad Tarantino apologized. He's going to be fine. He's not a monster in my opinion, but he did some really bad. That's a creepy thing to do. He's done a number of creepy things like that, and if Diane Kruger's cool with what he did as far as choking in Inglourious Bastards, that's fine. Congratulations. Not everybody is, and Tarantino needs to take accountability for that.
Yeah, there is an online thing happening now in regards to this. The crash aside now, Jessica Chastain, Judd Apatow, Daryl Hannah's complaints. When she was harassed by Harvey Weinstein, they kicked her off press tour, and nobody helped her. And Tarantino was was kind of ignoring the situation. Jessica Chastain says, anybody that's choking me, and alleging, not in the context of the movie, rape, spitting, choking, it shows that that when do we look at this as important, and when do we look at this as something that needs to stop? So there is a vocal community right now that I just looked at, that I'm like, okay, I don't know if Tarantino is going to be okay after this. I really don't.
It needs to stop. And I'm going to source Matt Goldberg's article again, because when he was talking about the Diane Kruger portion of the story, this is one of the clearest ways to show why that's a problem, in addition to just a director choking an actress. But by doing that and asking for her consent, Tarantino basically said, I don't believe that you can act being choked, so I'm just actually going to do it for real. That to me sounds like a major line being crossed, and I don't care what safety precautions you take with something like that. If you are really choking someone, how do you not run the risk of actually harming the person? And just in general, this kind of behavior is crossing a line. I'm not saying this because I'm ready to cross Quentin Tarantino off my list of directors I like and I want to see more films from, but there is no doubt in my mind that based on these stories that I'm reading, that he needs to reassess how he works. And good for him for apologizing to Uma Thurman, but he needs to take more steps than that to completely regain my respect right now.
Yeah, and I think to put a button on this, the studios need to reassess how they look at productions and how they look at hiring people, because you can't have this kind of thing. And look, I'm sure that there's a long history in Hollywood of directors doing crazy things and end up working out great. Like, man, can you believe we pulled all that off? We did some things to actors, and they really pushed themselves, and they were all in it for the team. That's all great, and it happened in the past. And now it's a new day. Football players used to not have to be checked for concussion on the sideline. People didn't have to used to wear seatbelts. Old cars, they don't ding, ding, ding until you buckle your safety belt. Now they do, because we have standards and practices that have been updated. And according to this story, it's very apparent that the same thing needs to happen on Hollywood sets. And I hope it does sooner rather than later, especially on Quentin Tarantino's future sets. Okay, we're going to move on to opening this week. There's a bevy of movies coming out, and we're going to get excited talking about them, because these are the stories that we love on Movie Talk, actually talking about movies coming out. And then you get the 50 Shades Freed. That's coming out this weekend. There we go. 50 Shades Freed is one of the movies coming out this weekend. We also have, if you're looking for a slightly different kind of movie, the 1517 to Paris. And if you're looking for a slightly different movie, Peter Rabbit is also going to be in theaters. Different options in the movie theaters this weekend. Let's just quickly go down the line, because I want to see what everybody would go to see. You're at the theater. You're looking at these three on the marquee. Dennison, what is your option?
I'm probably gonna see Peter Rabbit. 50 Shades. It's like I remember I watched the first one just because it was like the #1 movie that weekend, and for a movie about sex, it was pretty boring. And then the 1517. Look, Clint Eastwood. I like Clint Eastwood as a director, but sometimes, especially with this choice of having the real people play themselves in it, he did not the similar thing, but in Gran Torino, he had non-actors play characters, and I don't think it worked out, and I don't know if I'm going to wait and see what people say about the performances. Look, it's great that those guys are heroes, but I just don't know where that line is where you start taking there's a reason why people go to acting school and learn how the craft and do all these things. Is that you can't just shove any regular person in there and be like, okay, act. So that's my concern with that one.
Yeah, that's the movie I'm seeing, though, just because I'm interested in how they do come off, and it's an incredible true story that's not Peter Rabbit or 50 Shades Freed. Peter Rabbit looks cute if you like families and kids. Perri, which movie do you want to see?
I made this choice because I had the option to see 1517 to Paris or 50 Shades Freed later this week, and I chose 1517 to Paris because I really do want to see that. I obviously don't know how that decision is going to pan out for the movie about not going with actors for those roles, but I'm more than willing to make up my own mind about it, and I want to see that story on the big screen.
Okay, Reilly, you are going to see 50 Shades Freed. Why?
I'm not seeing that movie. I remember when the first one came out, and it was around Deadpool, and everybody's talking about that one and less about Deadpool at the time. In regards to like going on a movie date, and my girlfriend went, do you want to see 50 Shades, 50 Shades Grey? She went, no, I want to see Deadpool. I'm like, atta girl, let's go to Deadpool. Because every time a sequel has come out with this 50 Shades franchise, it's gotten more and more ridiculous. I heard it was that the last one was one of the best comedies of the year. So I'm wondering what 50 Shades Freed has to offer. Not seeing Peter Rabbit. Last night I watched Clint Eastwood on Jimmy Kimmel. And it got me jazzed to see 15/17 to Paris. One, I love these types of stories. And he said, he told the story about when he went to the producers in the studio, say, I'm going to get the real guys to do this. He got a lot of pushback. They're like, no. We want names, we want actors. And then he won that battle. And then the actors, he did get the real life heroes, went, should we go to acting class? And Clint Eastwood said, nope, I want to get it all real. So it's a fascinating experiment that I want to see, and also the story, because it's my type of film.
Yeah, I think that 50 Shades Freed, if you engage in those kind of activities, kids, could lead one day to having to go see Peter Rabbit with your children that you never wanted in the first place. The most dangerous place to attempt the events of 50 Shades Freed is on a train. So be careful going to the movies this weekend. As we move on to agree or disagree, our first story is about James Mangold and his next movie. Probably ain't going to have a post-credit scene, and it's not a comic book movie either. It is actually going to be 20th Century Fox new film about the rivalry between designers at Ford and Ferrari, who are determined to create the world's fastest race car. The untitled film follows an eccentric, determined team of American engineers and designers led by automotive visionary Carroll Shelby and his British driver Ken Miles, who are dispatched by Henry Ford II with the mission of building from scratch an entirely new automobile with the potential to finally defeat the dominant Ferrari at the 1966 Le Mans World Championship. No release date has been announced. My quick take on this movie is sign me the hell up, because anything James Mangold does, I'm going to be interested in. This story is incredible, and there's a great documentary, if you want to do your research on it, that Adam Carolla is involved in. I think he might have even directed it. It's called The 24-Hour War, and it just goes through everything, the rivalry that started way back before the 1966 Le Mans World Championship. It's a great watch, and I think this movie could be the same. How do you feel about it, Perri?
I'm into it, but how many times recently have we reported on James Mangold's next movie? So I'm just very hesitant to get excited about it. I even read a little bit of that book Crenshaw because I wanted to see James Mangold's cat movie, and now it doesn't seem like that's happening. I read that the Patty Hearst movie is probably off the table because of the comments made by folks involved in that. But you know, with someone like James Mangold, who is more so in demand than ever right now, who knows what his next project is going to be. If it happens to be this, I'm going to be very excited about it because I haven't seen that documentary. I don't know much about the true story, but the way it was presented in this article, it certainly sounded interesting to me. And that report also said that they're eyeing Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Christian Bale really excites me right now. I'm a little lukewarm on Matt Damon because I really didn't like Downsizing. And I'm not saying Downsizing was his fault, but I think that movie overall was so appealing that I'm like, all right, I've had enough Matt Damon for a little while, but I like the sound of all this. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed, I guess, that this is his next project.
Perri's keeping her fingers crossed. Dennis, do you agree or disagree with Perri that Christian Bale should be the right driver for this movie?
Well, I'll pretty much agree Christian Bale in almost any movie. So the big question is Mangold going to put a post-credit scene in this movie?
Nope. He just launched an F-bomb at you right now.
No F-bombs on this show.
Yeah. I loved Logan. I love what James Mangold did with that movie. I loved actually a lot of other movies that he's done in the past. So anything he's going to do, I'm excited about. But like Perri, it's kind of, you know, a little disheartening to see all these movies that he's planning on doing and they keep getting canceled. So this is one that's very interesting. I like the story of it. That documentary you mentioned, I checked out the trailer when we were reading the notes for this story. Looks cool. It's weird. I don't watch car racing, but yet these stories about car racing fascinate me, like that movie Rush, or like there's a documentary called Senna about car racing. So like I like the stories that surround racing. I just actually watch the actual event.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed to all my southern brethren. My birthplace is North Carolina. I'm from Virginia, and I don't watch NASCAR. I'm sorry. I like the stories around it. Days of Thunder's awesome. I just look at it in NASCAR. Reilly, do you agree with Dennis that while real racing you might be lukewarm on, you're excited about this story?
Yeah, I don't watch NASCAR. I'm not a real racing guy either.
Come on, man.
But this gets me excited. I love especially the time period is fascinating to me. I dig the idea of casting Christian Bale and Matt Damon. I love Matt Damon. I love Christian Bale, so this sounds fun. But kind of buried in all this news is the projects that are put on hold or not happening anymore. Like you mentioned, Crenshaw, Perri. buried in this, and this is the fallout of the Disney Fox deal, is that he was interested in X-23 spinoff. I would have loved to seen Daphne Keene's character continue on and him focus on that because he struck gold with Logan, and to see that story continue through her eyes in a gritty R-rated movie, continuing that X-Men, whatever we see with Daphne Keene. I mean, I'm sorry, some of the best parts of Logan is her snicking and taking people's heads off. I just really love that movie. I would have loved to seen this over that. I want an X-23 spinoff, but per this report, it says the Disney deal might put that on hold, which makes me sad. So that's the fallout of that Comcast first stuff we were talking about. But if he's going to go through with this, I'll watch it.
Let the guy make another movie, then he'll get back to X-23.
I don't know if he's going to get back to X-23. Everybody's saying it's not going to happen now. That makes me sad.
I'm sorry about that. Have a dream about it, and then walk around your
on
kitchen.
it.
Our next story is a curious one because Jessica Chastain is one of the most popular and recognizable actresses in the world, but she was cut from the new movie that she had been working on, mommy filmmaker Xavier Dolan's new flick, The Death and Life of John F. Donovan. She was playing a character who was one of the central villains in the story, but her character had been cut from the movie entirely, despite having a pretty major role. To quote the filmmaker Xavier Dolan himself, you go to his Instagram page and you'll see, "What you need to hear from me is Jessica Chastain's character, after what was a long period of reflection, had to be cut from the film. It was an extremely difficult decision to make. I feel toward Jessica sincere love and a great admiration. The decision was editorial and narrative, and that it has nothing to do with the performance and everything to do with the character and the compatibility of its storyline." This movie had a cut that was 4 hours long. And you can't release a movie that's 4 hours. I don't care how engaging the story may be. 4-hour movies just don't exist, Dennis. So unfortunately, Chastain is the one who felt the brunt of that because her character was cut. I don't have any issue with this because it does seem that it was an artistic decision, that you have to get rid of this plot line because he didn't feel like it went with the rest of the movie, and we got to shed 2 hours from this baby. So as much as I love seeing Jessica Chastain in anything, I don't have an issue with this decision. Do you?
No, I don't. I haven't seen the cut. I'm not the director, so I can't tell you whether it's the right or wrong choice. But I will say, for a director to do something like this, you have to have a certain amount of belief and confidence in yourself and your vision to do this, to take one of the most well-known actresses in the world and say, you were in my movie, you did all this work, and we're just going to cut you completely. And it has nothing to do with her performance and everything to do with the story. I mean, that's a lot of conviction. And, it actually says a lot about him as a director.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there's whispers online about people speculating that they wonder if Jessica Chastain has been such an outspoken actress as of late with the importance of the Me Too and Time's Up movements, if that was some reason why she might be cut. No, there's a great cast in this movie, and that includes Natalie Portman, who's not shy, and Susan Sarandon, who's not shy. So there's a lot of great women in this movie, so I don't think that was the reason at all. Do you disagree with that, Perri?
No, not at all. I mean, even without Jessica Chastain, and I love Jessica Chastain, I would have been happy to see her in this movie, but even when you do cut her out, there's still a great ensemble cast there. So I kind of like hearing that a filmmaker is going about this in a public and respectful way rather than just cutting her out and then having any kind of like vile online, wheels turning, just making up your own little narratives, because obviously most minds would say, oh, she was cut because she wasn't that good in it. But no, he came right out and said it. I think the only thing that disappoints me about this, and this isn't to say that the movie isn't going to be good, it's just one of the reasons I was really interested in the movie, is that he had said that some of the idea was sparked by, the rise of like Marvel and DC film fandoms and what that means, and exploring that. And apparently as he made the movie, that became less the focus, and it's more childhood and dreams. And I like childhood and dreams, but I was very intrigued by that other story too. But, this is how the film process goes. Sometimes, a script can stay very consistent and wind up really being what the final movie is. But sometimes you can go from script to production to post-production and final cut, and you could find different meaning in a movie or different focus. And the fact that he's focused at all on a specific topic and knows what he needs to cut out to keep that focus, I think is probably a good sign for the final feature.
Reilly, will you be seeing the ultimate cut of this movie?
Yeah, I hope there's an extended edition with all of her footage cut back in. I don't. This is, for all accounts, Jessica Chastain is a consummate professional. Is like, yep, that's the breaks, and it happens all the time. And it's a 4-hour movie that needs to be cut down. And apparently, it was some kind of comment on superhero movies that she played a villain in the subplot, albeit funny and entertaining. It didn't feel like it belonged to the rest of the story. So look, he knows what the story he's trying to tell, so he cut it, and it's shocking because Jessica Chastain is coming off of an Oscar snub, so everybody's going, "You cut Jessica Chastain? You're crazy." But it makes sense. It's his film. It's his vision. So
You joke about the extended cut, but wouldn't it be funny if this was leading us down a different path on purpose, and then it was still a commentary on the popularity of superhero movies, and we got an extended cut with Jessica Chastain's rolled back in
I
it?
like that.
I don't know.
Well, we don't have an extended cut in our last story, but we do have a trailer. And for that, we're going to bring back an old favorite. You guys ready? It's a curveball. Buy or sell. Let's do buy or sell for the
boy.
trailer. Cue the music. No? Okay.
Wait.
The trailer is Life of the Party, not to be confused with movie reactor favorites Late to the Party. Life of the Party just had a trailer that dropped featuring Melissa McCarthy in the starring role. It is a spin-off style Back to the School remake that was the classic 1986 Rodney Dangerfield movie. There's some warning signs here with the trailer, in my opinion, because it's directed by Ben Falcone, who is a great actor, and he just hasn't quite gotten the most out of the movies that he's worked with on his wife, Melissa McCarthy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, all of his movies with Melissa McCarthy, anything Melissa McCarthy is in, has made me laugh, and laugh a lot. And I put this trailer on, and I love Rodney Dangerfield. I don't think Back to School is unremakeable. Reilly, I laughed a lot watching this trailer. It comes out next summer, and it comes out this summer, as a matter of fact, and it's a buy for me.
It's a buy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a soft buy for me. Because I do love Melissa McCarthy, and every trailer I do laugh. And I don't know if it's a direct remake of Back to School. It's kind of inspired by, but I'm
Right.
and thankfully, because if it's inspired by, we can get away from the remaking all our favorite movies. Because I'm sorry, Back to School is I grew up with that movie. I love it so much, but I give Melissa McCarthy all the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully it comes out and we get kind of, not Bridesmaids, but that kind of like, wow, this is a great movie. Because, yeah, Ben Falcone, I love him as an actor. I want to see him nail something directing-wise because the projects he's made with his wife haven't been that great. And I want the opposite. I want to be able to go, this is a good comedy. I can't wait to see this. But there are a lot of funny things. I like Melissa McCarthy as like the kind of clueless mom going, "Hi, honey, see you in the quad." Is that a thing? Okay, quad. That gets me every time. So soft buy.
Soft buy for Reilly, hard buy for Ellis. Perri, Nemiroff.
Hard sell.
Whoa.
No. I'm over him directing her. Tammy, the boss. No. Why can't she is so talented of all, like, why can't her husband bring that out in these? But just because I always go back to Spy, because Spy to me is the best of both worlds for Melissa McCarthy, where you can have her doing the style of comedy that she's so good at, but you can also have her be a character that you could believe in and respect, and someone who isn't just bumbling around doing stupid shit all the time. This feels like Tammy and the Boss. Do more The Heat and Spy.
Yes.
I just don't understand why we keep getting the same crap. I mean, of all the
Perri.
of all the movies that I'm looking forward to with Melissa McCarthy right now, it's that Marielle Heller movie, Can You Ever Forgive Me, where she plays Lee Israel. Just give me that. Skip this. And if I do wind up seeing this for whatever, for a work reason, let's say, and this is bad, I will not see another movie with the two of them paired together like this where it is a similar style of comedy, because I have lost my patience.
If it doesn't work out for Perri, she might still be upset when she sees a solo movie, which opens the week after this one. Dennis Zen, how you feeling?
Well, I like Melissa McCarthy as well. She's great in Bridesmaids, Spy, The Heat. You mentioned that, but I'm with Perri. This looks like a dumpster fire. I watched this trailer. I don't know what trailer you guys are watching. I didn't laugh once. This thing should be taken out back, bury a hole, throw it in that deep hole so no one can ever see this thing. This looks terrible. It reminded me of that Girl Scout cookie movie or whatever. What was that movie?
Boss, yeah.
The Boss.
It was
Yeah.
at The Boss. Yeah. Oh my God. So yeah, take this thing away. I don't want to see it.
The first half of The Boss was really funny. Then you have that ridiculous fight sequence, and it all goes to hell from there. But God, that woman makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah, she makes me laugh. But yeah, I get what you guys are saying. I mean, the movies have been awful when they come out.
You can't argue against it.
You can't. I mean, you can go, oh, trailer, but Melissa McCarthy is walking that line where it's like, you're fooling me every time. Every time you do this great pratfall or you say something funny and yet stupid, and I laugh and giggle because you're hysterical, then I spend my money and you fooled me. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I'm probably not going to see this in the theater. I'll tell you that. But I'm going to wait for your review, Mark Ellis, and then maybe I'll decide.
Thank you.
All right.
You're going to wait for my review.
Yep.
And the world awaits for our Black Panther takes.
God,
they are up on line right now. Thank you very much. And
Right over the
you
plate.
guys can check out the Collider video review and the Schmoes No review right now. But because I'm actually not featured in the Schmoes No review because Christian and RB3 went to the premiere last week, so they reviewed the movie. I'll hopefully be in the spoiler one because I got to see it last night. This movie is just so great. I loved watching this movie. I haven't given it my official Schmo stamp just yet, but it's just every facet of the game. Ryan Coogler and his cast knock it out of the stadium. I was excited because I loved what Black Panther brought to Civil War. And now, seeing this movie, the entire world that is Wakanda, that whole country, all of the myth building that they achieve with this movie, everybody that surrounds T'Challa, all these characters who I did not get a chance to meet in Civil War, I want them to have their own movie. One of the many standouts of this movie was T'Challa's younger sister. I think that everybody came to play and they realized what an important cultural event this movie could be. So as great as it is existing in the MCU, it is of even greater importance to the people whose lives it's going to change. And I am thrilled to give this my seal of approval. It's a contender for a 5 out of 5 Schmoes. For me, Dennis, how did you feel about Black Panther?
Yeah, I loved it. The more I think about it, since I've seen it, I'm going to see it again in a week. Like you mentioned, the world building of Wakanda is great. It's also a great standalone MCU movie. You don't have to, and I think they did this on purpose, is you don't have to watch the other MCU movies. It helps, it enhances your experience, but you can go into this film not knowing anything about the MCU, Black Panther, or anything like that, and you can still get something out of it. The acting's great, the direction is great, the storyline too. There's just something about this film that I think will connect with the audiences of different diversity.
Yeah, there's something in there for everyone, Perri. You do not have to be a comic book movie lover to get excited for Black Panther.
Absolutely. And just to get my one negative out of the way that would stop it from getting a perfect score for me is I do think some of the CG is a little off, where there's a couple sequences where they'll go from CG characters back to physical actors on set, and I just noticed that a little too much for my liking. But otherwise, Ryan Coogler really knocked it out of the park with this. That script is so super tight, where every little, not necessarily subplot, but every character's mentality, the larger story, everything weaves together so beautifully. And, this movie really will have an impact well beyond just your experience sitting there watching it, even well beyond just representation in the movie industry. There's certain messages and meanings from things that happen in this movie that anybody out there can take with them after. I'll repeat what I put in my Twitter thing. I walked out of that movie more happy and hopeful, with an emphasis on the word hopeful, actually, than I have probably any Marvel movie, and also a lot of big blockbuster movies in general. And Letitia Wright as Shuri is probably one of my new favorite MCU characters, period. Denai Guerrilla and Lupita Nyong'o, oh my God, it's no joke when they say that the ladies of Black Panther are exceptional, because I think Chadwick Boseman is great, and obviously you've probably heard all the great things about Michael B. Jordan, but those three ladies just complete. I could have watched them do anything. I could watch a couple of them just have conversations the entire time. Yes, Shuri has the cool tech, and I love that element of it. And there's one scene in particular of hers that is one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie. But they could just have a conversation, and just the magnetism, charisma, their charm, it just radiates off the screen. Where I could have watched just the three of them for an entire movie.
Yeah, seeing the way the Dora Milaje works out in this movie, I think it adds even more credence to Tessa Thompson's desire to have Valkyrie in just a standalone, like a bunch of superhero women kicking ass. That's the movie you're going to want to see. I'm getting breaking news right now. That is that Mark Reilly still has not seen Black Panther. However, you are looking at some of the reviews online, which is probably almost as good, right?
First off, I don't appreciate your sass. Second, yes, the reviews fit the web. And the Rotten Tomatoes score is being live updated. So I'd like to put it to the panel right now. We have currently 46 reviews in. What do you think the score is at right now?
I could guess, but I looked on your computer.
Okay, great.
I'll
Perri?
guess.
Okay.
Do you wanna guess?
97.
I'm
Okay.
going 100.
It's at 100% right now. Yep, Perri, you're right. 46 reviews in, 100%. These are some glowing headlines. Black Panther review, Wakanda and Ryan Coogler forever is Collider's review. Hollywood Reporter, with uncanny timing, Marvel takes its superheroes into a domain they've never inhabited before, and all of us are better for it. In Black Panther, USA Today is rousing. Representative Black Panther is one spectacular superhero. EW, Black Panther reigns with style, a stellar cast, and a real-world relevance. Mashable, Black Panther builds a world you want to return to again and again. And Variety is glowing as well. Greenlight's movie feels quite unlike any other Avengers one-off featuring a superhero with purpose. So, look, you guys are raving about it. I know I'm going to love this movie. I can't wait to see it. Now, stop bugging me about it. I'm going to see it. Stop making me feel bad.
Well, I mean, maybe Riley's going to have some time to see it because we are happy to announce we're updating our studio. The only issue with that is that we're not going to be able to do some live movie talks later on this week. But don't worry, you're going to get your daily dose of Collider Movie Talk Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with some special episodes that we've made just for you guys. We're going to get to debate some fun comic book movie stuff. We're going to get to do a fantasy draft again, and we're going to get to do some of your questions. So you can live tweet us. You can ask us anything you want on Instagram, Facebook. We'll take the best of the bunch and answer them on an upcoming episode of Collider Movie Talk this weekend. We also have on Collider.com the Q&A with Ryan Johnson. We did a special IMAX screening that was hosted and moderated by our own Stephen Frosty Weintraub. That's up on Collider.com right now. And a new Team Schmodown match drops later on today. So stay subscribed right here to Collider Video for all of that goodness. I want to thank my incredible crew and panel. Dennis Zen, where can the kids find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, Instagram Dennis.tzng, and also we'll have other videos up during the week if there's any breaking news and whatnot.
Perri Nemiroff.
At P. Nemiroff on Twitter and Instagram. Happy birthday, Mom.
Oh, it's Mom and Emmy's birthday?
It is.
Well, happy birthday, Mom. And I know I'm your favorite on the show, so happy birthday
You're
from
Nana's
your
favorite.
fave. And I'm Nana's favorite, too. Love you, Nana. Mark Reilly, I also love you.
Well, thank you, Mark Ellis. You can find me looking for the next press screening of Black Panther.
I am merely Mark Ellis. You can get tickets to my shows this weekend. Omaha. I'm coming your way. Omaha at the Funny Bone. MarkEllisLive.com. Upcoming dates include Portland, so get tickets right there. And we will see you guys real soon with a cool updated studio right here in Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.